A few weeks ago I came across a video called the Super Mario 64 Iceberg Explained. It was a really great and interesting video and made me wonder if there are other iceberg images around the internet. While I was scrolling on Twitter, I came across a Kirby version of the iceberg image made by a Twitter user named Curbstar, and it had many things that I didn't even know was in Kirby. So I contacted Curbstar if I could use the image to make this video, and Curbstar was able to let me use the image. Not only that, but if there were any doubts in the entries, Curbstar will be able to explain it and provide images that I need for it. So with all that out of the way, let's get it started. Moon Easter Egg. The Moon Easter Egg is a secret room that has one-ups, foods, and stars, and it only appears near the end of a level. By accessing it, you fly up to a crescent moon and enter the moon like you're entering an area. Though in other games, the moon is replaced by an asteroid or star. Bandana D is the Waddle Dee from 64. In Kirby 64, there is a random Waddle Dee that joins Kirby's adventure to defeat Zero 2 from destroying Ripple Star. A lot of people, even myself included, speculated that the Waddle Dee's Bandana Waddle Dee. There's a few connections like having strong bonds with DDD and Kirby, but there isn't any confirmation from HAL, unless you count this video from HAL, which I believe. HAL Rooms. Like the Moon Easter Egg, HAL Rooms is a secret room that has foods, one-ups, copy abilities, and star blocks arranged to spell out HAL. These rooms appear more than once in a Kirby game, but they are tricky to come by and does not follow the same format like the Moon Easter Egg. But it's nice seeing that developers putting a secret room containing their company's name for fun. Tack Planet. In Milky Way Wishes, there's a secret planet called Question Mark, which has the copy ability. The place is full of tacks and there's like 5 bombers. It's a very weird place, even the music choice is weird, which is Save Hut, but it is required for you to visit it if you're going to 100% the game. Butterfly always was Morpho Night. In Kirby Star Allies, there's a mode called Guest Star Allies Go, where you get to play other Kirby characters in story mode levels, and some getting their own levels. When you get to the final boss, a butterfly appears and it absorbs Galactic Knight and transforms to Morpho Knight. A lot of people speculated that the butterfly has always been planning this and has been in almost every mainline Kirby game, appearing all the way back to the first game. Kirby GCN repurposed as Kirby's Return to Dreamland. In E3 2005, Nintendo showed off a new mainline Kirby game that was in development for the GameCube, but after a few months it was cancelled. The reason it was cancelled is because HAL was having multiplayer issues with the game. I also heard that it was GameCube limitations too, but I don't really believe that. After the cancellation, HAL did 2 more attempts, one of them being 3D and the other being a pop-up art book setting. But they decided to cancel both because, again, multiplayer issues. A few years later, finally, a new mainline Kirby game was released for the Wii called Kirby's Return to Dreamland. It had aspects from Kirby GCN like the background, music, and bosses. On Kirby's 20th anniversary, HAL revealed that Kirby's Return to Dreamland was indeed a successor to Kirby GCN. Many fans wonder if a ROM of Kirby GCN will be leaked on the internet, but since HAL is super secretive of their projects, we will probably never going to see it happen. Side note, there's a user on Twitter named Mint who is working on a Kirby's Return to Dreamland ROM hack that is GCN inspired, and for what I've seen, it looks great, so give them a follow if you want to see more from them. The Fate of Sectonia in Triple Deluxe. It's a long story, but in short, Terenza stole the amazing mirror from the mirror world and gave it to Sectonia as a tribute. Sectonia loved the mirror and kept glazing the mirror every day until the mirror corrupted her heart and turned her into beauty and pure evil, and turned into the Sectonia we know. And I'm pretty sure you know the rest, so let's move on. Eon Hero lived during Void Terminus times, got exiled and known as Galactic Knight. Galactic Knight was one of the 4 heroes who fought and sealed Void Termina away and was named Eon Hero, but Galactic Knight was sealed away by an unknown force in fear of his power. Not much about Galactic Knight's story is known, it's all a mystery. The only new info we got was in Kirby Star Allies and Super Kirby Clash, where his Eon Hero name came from. Drossia, Paintria, Glacia, and Vividria having connections. In Kirby Triple Deluxe, if you read Paintria's description, it mentions that Paintria is Drossia's sister and were separated at birth. For Glacia, she has a similar name to Drossia. For Vividria, if you read her description in Star Allies Go, she says, Watch me, sisters, I'll do my best. Maybe hinting that Joshua and Petra are her other sisters. Cutter super ability. In Kirby's Return to Dreamland, there's an unused model of a super ability version of Cutter. By the looks of it, the textures are complete and everything. But the developers probably scrapped it because it was too similar to the Ultra Sword since they both are cutting abilities. Kirby's Toy Box. Kirby's Toy Box was a series of Kirby mini-games released for the Satellaview Network, an add-on for the Super Famicom, only in Japan on February 8, 1996. These Kirby mini-games were baseball, pinball, and pachinko, but once you get to play these mini-games, it kinda gets boring. Also, once you start the game, it shows a teaser of the chalkboard menu from Kirby Superstar. Scarfy gives Crash ability. If you obtain the copy ability from Tak and use it on Scarfy, you will receive the Crash ability. It kinda makes sense because Crash and Scarfy are similar, like they both explode after one use, and you could do the same thing in Kirby Superstar Ultra, so yeah. Ripple Star Catacombs. In the second level of Ripple Star, you go into a well that leads to a big cave and a maze. But if you look at the name for the level theme, it's called Catacombs. If you don't know what catacombs are, it's an underground cemetery consisting of a subterranean gallery with recesses for tombs as constructed by the ancient Romans. And if you think about it, it's messed up and creepy. Playable Adeline and Waddle Dee in Kirby 64 beta. In the beta version of Kirby 64, there were playable Adeline and Waddle Dee. By the looks of it, Adeline was gonna use her paint powers and Waddle Dee was able to pick up and throw enemies, similar to Kirby Star Spit. In the final version, the only other character you get to play as is King Dedede. It's unknown why were these removed in the game. Mini Kirby was planned in Adventure. In Kirby's Adventure, there are unused sprites for a small Kirby, showing that there have been plans for a mini copy ability. 12 years later, this ability would finally be implemented in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. But unfortunately, you cannot slide. Clockwork Stars lore. In Kirby's Return to Dreamland, Megalor mentions that the Lord Star Cutter was crafted by the ancients, having incredible power to construct it. This same power gave the rise to clockwork stars that soars the cosmos, meaning that there are more than one Nova that are soaring around the universe. Kirby Planet Robobot was able to confirm this. Kirby was called Popopo to match Dedede and Lololo. During the development of Dreamland for the Game Boy, the protagonist was named Popopo and later changed to Kirby. People theorized that Popopo was made to match Dedede, Lololo, and Lalala since they have repeated words. The closest thing we got was the name Popopo was meant to be a parallel to Dedede. But I don't really believe on the theory. My guess is that it was just a placeholder, which it kinda was. Susie is just a robotic copy or clone of Holtman's daughter. I really don't think Susie is a copy or a clone because in Planet Robobot Dedede Clone 2.0 description it states, it has the look and voice of King Dedede but not his soul. Some things can't be cloned. Some of the trial models were only interested in food. Some were fearful of a certain insect, and all were imperfect. Which means making an exact clone is impossible, and there is no evidence of Susie being a robot, so I don't buy it at all, and it doesn't really make sense. Triple Deluxe cave theme is from Dreamland 2. In Kirby Triple Deluxe, it has a theme called The Cave in the Sky, which plays in cave levels. If you listen closely, it's a remix of an unused theme from Kirby's Dreamland 2. Take a listen. Crackle remembers past experiences. If you read Crackle's description in Kirby Fighter Deluxe, it reads, "You! Do you think I forget? The time you smashed into me with your high jump? The time I was betrayed by helpers? Or when I was replaced by that mechanical cloud? There's something in my eye." Meaning that he remembers times where he fought Kirby before and getting replaced in Squeak Squad. unlike other enemies like Wispy Woods, because he probably doesn't care. Fololo and Falala. In the Kirby anime, Lololo and Lalala are named Fololo and Falala in the dub. I don't know why was this the change. I don't even think there's a reason why it was changed, so yeah, I don't even have a guess. Shiverstar is Earth on a nuclear winter. In Kirby 64, the 5th world Shiverstar appears to resemble a lot like Earth after nuclear winter. What's interesting about it is that in the Japanese website it mentions that Shiverstar inhabitants had to leave the planet, leaving abandoned buildings. There's a theory going around that it's Hal's way of predicting how the Earth will die and we'll have to move to another planet, but I don't know. You tell me. Playable Highness. In Kirby Star Allies, there appears to be a Highness model with 3 other old colors, meaning that Highness was at one point going to be a playable character, but it never happened. The colors were removed in the 3rd update. I don't know why they removed this. It would have been really cool seeing Highness playable and probably getting more lore, but hey, at least the Mage Sisters are playable. Battlemon's hideout in Cloudy Park. In Kirby's Dream Land 3, the last area of level 4 in Cloudy Park, there's a secret in the wall. If you go through it, you'll be able to find a lot of Battlemons just hanging around, I guess. I think the developers put it here just for fun. Highness Rant and the Ancients. In Kirby Star Allies, Highness rants about the Ancients sealing his cult away because in fear of their power, stopping a repulsive nightmare of a galactic crisis and saying they are masters of a matter most dark. It's all creepy and mysterious if you read the whole thing, probably leaving a lot of theories and speculation. Canon icon in Adventure. In Kirby's Adventure, there's a canon icon which only shows if you're inside a canon, and only in the French and European version. Any other version won't work, but you can see it for a split second if you're mixing copy abilities. This was later fixed in the 3DS Classic version. You can still able to see the icon when you mix copy abilities. Fighter Kirby's slide can damage bosses in Amazing Mirror. In Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, when you do a slide attack on a boss, it won't do any damage. But if you have the fighter ability and do the slide attack on bosses, it gives them damage. It's kinda weird how you can do this only with the fighter ability and not the others. It could be a glitch or just a little detail, but I don't know. Meta Knight and King Dedede in Rainbow Curse. In Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, Meta Knight and King Dedede appear as unlockable figurines, but if you look through the files, King Dedede and Meta Knight are placed with the main character models, and are fully rigged models. By the looks of it, they both were gonna have a bigger role than just a little cameo, and probably planned as playable characters. Drossia resembling Dark Matter Swordmen. If you look at Drossia's design, it looks oddly familiar to Dark Matter Swordsman's design. I mean, just look at it, you can tell there's some sort of connection here, or inspired, but I'm not really sure. The Noseman episode removal. In Kirby Right Back at Ya, there was an episode called The Thing About the Ring. It was aired once in the US and never returned. The reason why it was removed is because of the Noseman's disturbing appearance and abilities. I'm pretty sure you can find the Japanese version on YouTube easily, but I'm not sure finding the dub version on YouTube will be easy, if it ever is on YouTube. The unused voice lines in Kirby 64, Iroha. In Kirby 64, there's an unused voice line that repeats the first 2 phases of the traditional Japanese poem, Iroha. Due to how it ends, it was likely intended for the TVs in the 3rd level of Shiverstar. Unused bat projectiles in Halberd Escape. In Kirby Superstar, there are unused sprites of bats that were loaded during Halberd Escape, and Meta Knight probably used them as projectiles. The intro of Bubbly Clouds in Game Boy. In Kirby's Dream Land, the intro of Bubbly Clouds shows Kirby falling down into a cloud which flashes and drops a bunch of Kirbys and stars. This was changed in Superstar and used the same intro in later games. I wonder why the Bubbly Clouds intro was only changed and not the rest. Bowser and Peach in Dedede's Arena. In Kirby Superstar, there's a cool Easter egg in Dedede's Arena. If you look far to the right or left, you can see Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Birdo cheering you on. But if you look closely, you can see Peach and some other character behind her. But looking at the whole sprite, that character turns out to be Bowser. You can also fully see Peach. Kid Kirby. During the SNES era, there was a Kirby game that was in development called Kid Kirby and uses the SNES mouse. It was developed by DMA Design, later changed to Rockstar Games, famously known for making the Grand Theft Auto games. Not much is known about Kid Kirby. The game was cancelled by Nintendo due to years of unproductive development. A playable demo was made, but it has been lost according to a DMA Design developer. The animals in Shiverstar. In Kirby 64, if you look at the background in the 4th level of Shiverstar, you can see animals like hippos, cats, and other creatures in mysterious tubes, probably being tested. I hope they don't get hurt. Revenge of Meta Knight's Cloud Passageway. In Kirby Superstar Revenge of Meta Knight, there's a secret room that is accessed by going through a cloud that has food surrounding it. Not many people know about this room, not even myself, so hidden yet in plain sight. It's also the room that has Bubbly Cloud's tile set that uses a sunset palette. Ado is the last surviving human from Shiverstar. There's a lot of theories going around that Adeline is the last surviving human from Shiverstar, which I don't really believe. Remember, the inhabitants from Shiverstar had to leave the planet, and Adeline probably was born in Popstar. I don't know. And of course there isn't any confirmation from Hal, so yeah, it's kinda a mystery. What'll do in Block Ball. In Kirby's Block Ball, there's an unused sprite of Waddle-Doo and his death animation, which shows his eye bursting out of his socket, like another demon enemy. He appears in the manual alongside with Pengy, who also went unused, meaning that they were cut in late development. Female Gooey and Chow. In the US version of Kirby's Dream Land 2, there's a female version of Gooey that gives you a 1-up, and it is required for you to find her if you're going to 100% the game. But in the Japanese version, the female Gooey is replaced by Chow. She actually is from an only Japanese Famicom game called Yoyuki. Luckily, she also appears in any version of Dreamland 3, but female Gooey is nowhere to be seen. Boomer replaced with Poppy Bros Cutter. In Kirby's Dream Land Extra Mode, Sir Kibble is replaced by Boomer, who throws Boomerang faster and twice than Sir Kibble. In Kirby Superstar and Ultra, there are Poppy Bros that hold boomerangs and give the cutter ability, but they're yellow and not red and aren't really called boomers. Dark Matter and Zero in Old Tower. In Kirby Superstar, if you look at Old Tower's background, you can see Dark Matter swords with an eye, and in Ultra you can see Zero too. I think the first one is just a coincidence and I don't really see it, but the second one I believe. Hal likes to put Dark Matter secrets after the games came out a few years ago, but do you believe it? The Spear of Longinus in Swiss Army Needle Beta 64. In the beta version of Kirby 64, the Swiss Army Needle combo had a pointy black bident resembling the tip of the Spear of Longinus that appeared in the anime series called, forgive me if I say this wrong, Neon Genesis Evangelion. I think this is just a coincidence. I never heard about this anime until just now, and I probably will never watch it, so I don't know. Red Canyon 5-5. In Kirby's Dream Land 2 Red Canyon 5-5, if you go to the area that has a smiley face and go down 2 areas and putting it together, it looks like let's just move on. The Orca Room in Dreamland 2. In Kirby's Dream Land 2, there's a secret room that has stars for you to collect. By accessing it, you go through a sign that says Orca in Red Canyon. Also, did you know saying Orca backwards is Arco, the Orca that appeared in the other 2 games? Funny enough is that he was originally going to appear in Dreamland 2, probably as a boss like the other 2 games. Dark Meta Knight costume in Air Ride prior to his debut. In Kirby Air Ride, there's an alt color for Meta Knight which resembles a lot like Dark Meta Knight. It may or may not be a coincidence, maybe Dark Meta Knight's design was inspired by Meta Knight's alt colors, since the devs looks back at the old Kirby games to make Amazing Mirror. Kirby Air Ride 64, playable Mr. Frosty. During the N64 era, HAL Labs were working on a game called Kirby Bowl 64. It was most likely a sequel to Kirby's Dream Course, which was called Kirby Bowl in Japan and in other regions. Then it was reworked and called Kirby's Air Ride, focusing on snowboard or airboard levels. Not much is known about it since the game development was mostly quiet, but it had multiplayer and playable characters like Mr. Frosty, King Dedede, and Poppy Bros Sr. The game was cancelled later, but it was reworked again for the GameCube, which became Kirby Air Ride. It had some stuff from the 64 version like multiplayer and playable characters, well, only 2, but hey, glad it's been reworked and released. Dark Meta Knight carved his own mask with a scar to look cooler. This was just here for fun, but according to a Japanese exclusive Kirby of the Stars 20th Anniversary Encyclopedia, Dark Meta Knight got his scar from dueling Meta Knight during the first fight, so if you really wanted to know how he got his scar, well, there you go. The 3 Mages origin stories. Before Kirby Star Allies, the 3 mages were ordinary girls on the brink of death. Francisca nearly froze to death in a snowstorm. Flamberge nearly suffocated in a fire. Zanpan nearly drew her last breath after being struck by lightning, while desperately climbing after she lost everything. However, Highness came and saved all of their lives and granted them powers. Thus, they became the Mage Sisters and became Highness's followers. Magalore and Mangalore. This one might be another one here just for fun. I think it's about Magalore and Shopkeeper Magalore. I don't know. Chucky, Dreamland 1 cameo on Great Cave Offensive. If you play the Great Cave Offensive, reset the game and go to the files, you can see Chucky, a common enemy in Kirby's Dreamland, making a cameo, although he's yellow instead of blue. Kinda interesting. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror prototype. This 2003 build of the game had a few changes before the final, but not much else. There's even a speedrun for the prototype. That's something you don't see every day. Waddle Doo in Block Ball. Oh, I think I already talked about this, and I don't think I need to explain it again, so let's just move on. Kirby 64 storyboards with dialogue. From the mid-2000 to 2001, HAL Labs website had a gallery concept art for Super Smash Bros. 64, Pokemon Snap, and Kirby 64, which had storyboard dialogue. Some of these were different before it was changed in the final. Also, the first 2 pages can be seen in the collectible booklet included with Kirby's Dream Collection. Combo Canyon giving Yo-Yo SNES. In Kirby Superstar, if you inhale one of the bombs during the Combo Canyon battle, it gives you the Yo-Yo ability. I think this is a glitch or bug because later in Kirby Superstar Ultra, you get the bomb ability, which makes even more sense. 02 is a reference to Lilith, Evangelion. If you compare 02 to Lilith from Evangelion, the anime I mentioned earlier, you can see a few resemblance. I think this is another coincidence. I guess you could think it's a reference and maybe inspired, but like I said, I think it's just another coincidence. 64 DD version of Kirby 64. Kirby 64 was developed for the Nintendo 64 disk drive, an add-on for the Nintendo 64. Due to the add-on selling poorly, the game was moved as a Nintendo 64 cartridge. There's probably nothing different in the DD version aside a few changes. Not much is really known. Void rebirth as Kirby. In Kirby Star Allies, Void is referred as Astral Birth. There's speculation going around that Void rebirth as Kirby since they both are similar and smile a lot. Like the description says, when he returns, hopefully it will be as a friend. Low poly ribbon. There are a few low poly ribbons in Kirby 64. The high poly is used for cutscenes, the gray poly is probably an early version of ribbon, and the rest can be seen in gameplay. Mass attack unused enemies. Kirby Mass Attack has a few unused enemies that would never appear in the game. Some of them are even finished, quite interesting if you ask me. Perfect screen in Dreamland 3. In Kirby's Dreamland 3, if you do boss rush mode without taking any damage and press XLR after defeating Zero, you get a perfect screen. What's weird about it is that you have to press XLR. If you don't, the perfect screen won't appear. But it's cool seeing the game congratulate you after defeating all bosses without taking any damage. Same goes for Kirby 64, which also has a perfect screen. All the symbols in Void Terminus body. In Kirby Star Allies, if you look at Void Terminus symbol texture, you can see a lot of cool Kirby references like the Star Rod, Meta Knight's mask, the sword, DDD's mitten, heck, even QB from Box Boy. Pretty neat. Mario and Kirby Masterpiece OVA. The Mario Kirby Masterpiece is an educational video only released in Japan and stars Mario and Kirby both on their own separate adventures. It is aimed at teaching young children kanji or Chinese characters. It was released in 1993, the same year Kirby's Adventure was released, using the art style for the OVA. For the purpose of this iceberg in video, I'll be mainly talking about Kirby's story. So basically, Kirby found a puppy who lost her mother, and Kirby finds out that DDD captured her mom and trapped her in his castle. After Kirby arrives at DDD's castle, it turns out that DDD was just taking care of her because of her hurt paw. With a sigh, Kirby goes home, thus ending the story. The OVA is nothing too special or big, but it's cute. I'll link the video in the description if anyone is interested in seeing the video. Dream Course intro removed. In the Japanese version of Kirby's Dream Course, which is called Kirby's Bowl, it had its own cutscene explaining the story if you wait on the title screen for a few seconds. In the US release, the cutscene was removed, but the manual explains the story, well, somewhat. The reason why it was removed is because the Japanese version had 1.5 megabytes of cartridge memory, while the others had 1 megabyte, which they probably didn't have enough space to put the cutscene. Gooey, Batamon, Miracle Matter, and Dark Nebula are failed attempts at recreating Kirby by the Dark Matter. All of them have similarities to Kirby, like having the same copy abilities, the same personality, etc., but not an exact recreation of Kirby. The closest thing they have recreated Kirby by Dark Matter are Gooey and probably Batamon. Swinging Waddle Dee not an SNES Superstar. In Kirby Superstar, there's an unused sprite of a swinging Waddle Dee. You can add it in the game via a level editor by changing the level ID of a swinging Waddle Dee from 32 to 21. The tank concept in Dreamland 2. In Kirby's Dreamland 2, Kirby was originally going to ride a tank instead of the animal buddies. This was referenced in the Rainbow Curse, where Rick appears for a split second when you get the tank, and the other animal buddies appear when you get a sub or a rocket. Togezo, Rolling Turtle, Gip, and Capsule J disappearance. These were replaced with a different enemy in the remakes, except for Gip, who just only appeared in Nightmare in Dreamland and never came back. I don't know why were they replaced in the remakes, probably design like what they did with Capsule J getting replaced by a better version. Kirby's Adventure commercial with Epic Yarn style. In Japan, Kirby's Adventure had a commercial that looks a lot like Epic Yarn style. Some fans speculated that it may have been the inspiration for the game's style, but in actuality, Kirby's Epic Yarn was the final product of a different entire game that wasn't even about Kirby. Developed by Goodfeel, known for working on Wario Land Shake It, Yoshi's Woolly World, and of course Kirby's Epic Yarn. Dream Course and Special T-Shot. Special T-Shot is a golf game for the Super Famicom released only for the Satellaview in Japan, like Kirby's Toy Box. Special T-Shot was planned to be a cartridge game and have an international release, but Nintendo chose to withhold the game from release, perhaps feeling that it lacked a strong enough identity of its own to stand out from other golf games. This leads to Nintendo commissioning HAL Laboratory to create a new similar game using the same engine and design, thus making Kirby's Dream Course, or Kirby Bowl if you live in Japan. There's a handful of differences between them. It's kinda weird how Nintendo made this decision, but hey, at least those two games were released. Well, one of them. Mako Maeda, singer of Kirby's Adventure vocal. Mako Maeda is a Japanese singer and vocalist that became the singer for a Kirby album called Hoshi no Kirby, Story of the Fountain of Dreams. It was officially released in 1994 on the Kirby's Adventure CD soundtrack in Japan. It contained 8 songs with lyrics sung to Kirby's tunes. It sounds pretty good. I'll link a video containing the soundtrack if you want to listen to it for yourself. And the rest of the soundtrack were just music from the game. The Cappy skeletons in DDD's castle in the anime. In the Japanese version of Kirby Right Back at Ya, Escargon, there's a scene where you can see a Cappy skeleton chain up for a split second, and it's kinda dark. This scene doesn't appear in the US, which is kinda understandable since it's dark and messed up. What has DDD been doing during his free time? Does Escargon even know? Copy and tack absorb mix abilities from Kawasaki instead of Cook. In Kirby Superstar, if you have a copy ability or tag and use it on Kawasaki, it gives you a random ability instead of the Cook ability. It's kinda weird but makes sense because you get to use Cook on small enemies and not really bosses. Also, it has a one-time use, so yeah, kinda understandable. Shimamura's disappearance. Shinichi Shimamura is a Japanese video game designer who previously worked for HAL Laboratory and worked on games like Hyperzone. He's the one who directed Kirby's Dreamland 2, 3, and Kirby 64, which fans refer as the Dark Matter trilogy. The last game Shimamura worked on was Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, which he also directed, and after that, he disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to him. There are rumors that he died or left HAL Labs, but there isn't any sources to help it. I do believe he's around somewhere, and I want to hear his opinion on the Kirby games that came out after Nightmare in Dreamland, but I guess we'll never know. It's all a big mystery. If anyone truly knows what happened to him, feel free to comment down below, because he made 3 freaking great games. Nightmare in Dreamland's beta trailer. In E3 2002, a trailer was shown for Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. It looked a lot different than the final, like early sprites and different level areas. The level areas were probably just test areas for Kirby's copy abilities, since they are filled with enemies. Popstar is a blue spherical planet covered in a stardust field shaped like a star. No, not really. I guess you can think Popstar is a blue round planet, but Star Allies and Return to Dreamland shows that it's not really a blue round planet. And I'm pretty sure other games proves this, so yeah, I don't believe this. Kirby forced to speak in Puyo from the anime onwards, a marketing tactic. Kirby used to talk in non-game media until the anime came in, rectifying him into talking like a Pokemon. I mean, Kirby does say other things other than Puyo, and I'm pretty sure Kirby stopped saying Puyo later, but it could be true, but not really at the same time, I don't know. Brawl trophies having remnants of Kirby GCN models. In Super Smash Bros. Brawl, if you look at Kirby's trophies and compare it to Kirby GCN screenshots, you can see they look quite similar. And it turns out some of the models are actually from Kirby GCN. Many fans speculated that Subspace Emissary is Sakurai's version of Kirby GCN, which it could possibly mean that Sakurai directed Kirby GCN, but it's all speculation. 0%, 0%, 0%. In the Japanese version of Kirby Superstar, there's a glitch that can cause your save files to reset to 0%. There are 5 steps on how to do it. If done correctly, your file will go back to 0%, which you have to start all over. I don't recommend doing this unless you're bored or something, but it has to be on the Japanese version. Any other version won't work, and it's not really worth your time. Return to Dreamland soundtrack having unused variants based on Kirby GCN prototype. In Kirby's Return to Dreamland files, there's a handful of unused music that sounds like Kirby Superstar Ultra mixed with Kirby 64, which are probably early versions of Return to Dreamland music. 2 of them possibly being from GCN, the first being an early version of Sky Tower and the second being an early version of Peaceful Place. Take a listen. Kirby anime soundtrack having half of its songs unreleased. Believe it or not, the anime had its own soundtrack. Only half of it has been officially released in 2 CD soundtracks, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror Sound Plus, and Kirby Air Ride since it uses most of its soundtrack. Kirby's Rainbow Resort shutting down mysteriously. Kirby's Rainbow Resort is an old site from 2007 which has portal of various Kirby media like artwork, concept art, etc. and it was shut down early this year. It's my first time hearing the site and I can't access it, but you can try the Wayback Machine and try it out for yourself. Moonlight Mansion pedestal. In an area next to Moonlight Mansion, there's a stone with a M and only appears there and not anywhere else. It's kinda weird how it's in one area and not anywhere else in the game. Kirby anime making commentary on the war between West and Middle East. In the Japanese version of Kirby Right Back at Ya, it commentaries on war, like DDD mentioning this is a terrorist attack when someone opposed him. It's really weird and I didn't even know this was in, so yeah. The Chesto Scream on DDD glitch. In Kirby Superstar, if you KO DDD, he will scream the first mic scream, but if you kill him with mic 3, he will scream the 3rd mic scream. I've tried this before and it didn't work, so it's not really a glitch. The first Bandana D died in Revenge of the King. Every following one is a replacement with a bandana. No, I don't really believe this at all, and there's no evidence proving this. Bandana D has always been there with DDD since Superstar, or 64, if you believe the random 10D is Bandana 10D. The single squishy in Amazing Mirror. In Moonlight Mansion, there is only one single squishy that just swims and sits there. No other squishy appears after that, and it's kinda interesting. Holy frick, that was a lot to swim through, get it? But seriously, if you watched the whole video, then thank you, I really appreciate it. Despite taking so long, I had fun making this video. I want to give my biggest thanks to Curbstar, who has been a tremendous help explaining the entries that I don't know, like Dark Matter and 02 in Old Tower or the tank concept in Dreamland 2, and the one who created the image, so I ensure you please go give them a follow. And of course, the Super Mario 64 Iceberg Explained was an inspiration for this video. If you haven't, I recommend you watching it. It's a great video. Before you subscribe, I like to mention that I don't normally do these videos and I don't have a daily schedule for it. I just like to do these videos for fun. Well, I still don't know how to properly end a video, so bye bye.